Hello guys and welcome to this channel, and today I will be talking about space settlement, which is the O'Neill Salindor. So this article is written by myself and today I'll be elaborating a bit on it. And if you guys see this during the video, that is just refreshing my phone because there is no picture circulating through this long video. And guys, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Drop a like and please excuse my pronunciation problem because I've had a hell of a day today. And so I will be elaborating why I did not upload videos at the end of the video, so stay tuned and enjoy the space settlement video. So humans have been planning to settle on Mars or like the moon for a really long time. Space settlement has been around in the mind of humans for like some time now, and so most probably humans are going to be settling down in the form of space stations, which we know as the O'Neill Salindor or the O'Neill Cylinder, because it is more feasible and it's more realistic, guys. And also, let's go through some of the features which these space stations have much of an advantage to than rather settling on Mars or the moon. So first is we can make more than one of these stations. So people who have problems living with one another can go on separate stations. And we could make more of these. How do we get the resources? Well, mining asteroids or the moon could give us a lot of resources, and there are a lot of asteroids just after Mars in the asteroid belt. So if we plan properly, we could be getting a lot of resources which could later be processed into material which is usable and could be used to build these space stations, guys. Okay, next point is we already know of the problems and are better prepared to face them of living in space, as we know humans have been living on the ISS or the International Space Station for 6 months or so. So we know what kind of challenges the human body is going to face, and we are better prepared than we are on settling on Mars for the first time. It's like one go journey. So those are one or two features, and more features are we could obviously create our own gravity. And we could create some kind of magnetic field on a smaller scale, because creating one for a planet is scientifically not possible yet, but we could do it for a smaller scale. And stuff like that, guys. So now we know the reasons why we need to settle on space stations, but Mars also has some honorable mentions. But for now, we're going to be sticking up with the space station. So now let's consider some goals that a permanent space station should be able to fulfill. So without these, our station was not that good or won't be able to function as efficiently. So I have made 3 points for this. Let's discuss these 3 points, the article. Independent way of obtaining resources, guys. So we need to obtain our own way. We need to obtain resources by our own. Excuse me, my English is bad at the moment. We need to obtain our own resources. We cannot rely on Earth for agriculture produce and water, which are the primary source of survival. And by this, I mean trying to make our own ecosystem, which I will be talking on later in this article. But right now, this is point number 1, which is we need to grow our own food and recycle our own water. Remember my words, recycle our own water and not make our own water. So recycle our own water. Okay, so this is independent way of obtaining resources such as our own agricultural produce and independent supply of water, which are very important, as relying on Earth is not very reasonable and reliable as well. Okay, so number 2 is a well-built government system. So we know we're living about millions and millions of kilometers away from Earth in these cylinders. Space settlement, which is us orbiting the sun or any part we want, which I will be discussing later in the article. For the moment, we are actually really far away from the Earth, and the Earth cannot attend to our problems, obviously. So we need a well-built government system. I do not know if you're going to be using the US institution on these stations, but I do know a well-developed government system is going to be keen for survival, as so many of these stations will be launched and hence becomes difficult for the people on Earth to manage them. I guess these government systems can be modified depending upon the need of the station. I'm actually reading the article at the moment, which is written by me. I just told that in the beginning of the article, but just reminding you, because if you guys are wondering why I'm reading, because the article is in front of me. Okay, third point is peace amongst the people. So, as we're living in space, again, millions of kilometers away, we have to make sure that the people aren't rivalries or in hatred or anything like that, because that is deadly, as wars are going to be breaking out on space stations and result in space stations exploding. We do not want that. So I cannot really do much about this, but what I can say is the people in charge of making space stations and putting these people on should make sure that any person is not in rivalry, or any groups in rivalry with each other get on the same station, guys. So those are the 3 points which are pretty keen for these space stations to be in peace and function properly. So now that we have these goals in mind, let's proceed to the more practical side of this huge project. We need to face many challenges here as well. One reason is due to the fact that our aim is to build not one but many, but hundreds of these space stations. So how do we get the materials needed to build so many space stations? Mining the moon or some asteroids will give us plenty of materials to use. We send back these materials to be processed on Earth and then can be used to make these space stations. Like the ISS, the first space station will be built in low Earth orbit. As we know, trial and error method could be applied, as we still learn from our mistakes, guys. So we could be putting the first space station here on low Earth orbit and trying new stuff on it. So from low Earth orbit, stuff is more easily accessible, and that's why we would be doing it. And we know the space station is going to be huge, and putting together one space station was hard enough. Doing it for hundreds is actually impossible for astronauts. So the solution for this is to build a very efficient robotic system. So you guys know that the International Space Station was built in space, assembled in space more like. It was built in smaller segments here on Earth and assembled in space. That astronauts had to do it, and it's quite a tough job. Doing that for one is hard enough. Doing that for hundreds is going to be impossible, guys. So what is this solution for this problem? Some kind of robotic systems should be developed where robots are going to be receiving rockets, breaking them up into components. These assembled pieces are going to be retrieved, going to be sent to other robots that are specialized in fixing them together, and then other robots which are going to be assembling them, and something like that. And then there's obviously a manager bot that controls everything. So something like science fiction, but this has to be there in order for these things to function. So yeah. Excuse me, guys, I'm kind of sick. Okay. And now let's look at the individual side of this. So as you guys know that G-forces or gravitational forces are quite deadly when given in the wrong dose and the wrong time. So obviously a only cylinder spinning alone could experience a lot of G-forces. So what we do to counter this is make two of them spin in a pair opposite to each other. That means these G-forces are greatly eliminated as the gravity is created. So now let's look at the individual space stations and how a day-to-day life is on one of these. So you guys know that money is a really big deal on Earth and is going to be in space stations as well. So basically, if you can't afford much, you would be going into these compact type space stations where there's like 30 floors and it's really compact, and houses are pretty small and it's really dense, and the living condition is quite poor compared to the richer ones, and the jobs on that space station aren't really high worthy. And if you go into the richer ones, it's like you have a lot of land to spare. You have like a dog, you have like countryside house and stuff like that, guys. High-end jobs and like stuff like that, which you could have a choice, but then it depends upon what you can afford and if you whether want to go or you don't want to go. Okay, so excuse me, guys. Okay, that's one of them. And then regardless of whatever we are doing, there should be something in common in these space stations, and that is our own gravity. I've listed about 3 points for this, and let's go through each point. So our own gravity. Humans are known to be seriously affected in the forces of zero gravity, which is zero gravity. Sorry. Because we know people living in the ISS have serious effects to their muscles and to their bones. But So this is only for 6 months or so. So when we have people living in space for a long time, like long time permanently, this is going to be having some serious effect. Being able to fly weightlessly is every 6-year-old's dream, but this can have some serious effects on our muscles as our muscles are not developed for zero gravity. We are perfectly at home at 1g, and having that been developed at zero gravity or 0g could lead from a baby who is developing, his brain not functioning properly, or even his hands not functioning properly, not being able to lift weights, and so on, having weaker muscles and other issues with his bones. And we definitely don't want that. So, how do we create our own gravity? We can. Back in 1920, a scientist proved that gravity could be generated if we can make an object spin fast enough. So, we have to make this thing spin fast enough. But how? This brings us on to our second point. So, we know that we need to make something spin, and that's why we're going to be making this into a cylindrical shape. As shown in this picture, you guys could see this thing is in the form of a cylinder. And the reason it's in form of a cylinder is because it needs to spin. And you guys know a cylinder is basically a circle stretched out horizontally. And so this will have some same characteristics as a circle, which is that any point from a circle's vertex to the boundary of a circle is the same as anywhere. Like take the vertex, which is the middle of the circle, and a vertical line, and even a horizontal line. The distance is the same because that's a property of a circle. The distance remains the same as long as the circle is even. So the same characteristics go on to the cylinder, and this helps spread the gravity out even more and makes the spin a lot more easier. So these need to be in the cylindrical shape. Okay, and number 3 is source of energy. Our own source of energy. So obviously carrying like 1,000,000 tons of fuel is not cost effective or practical. So we need to create our own energy. So one way is using solar panels. Obviously, guys, we know, if you guys didn't know, only 30% of the sunlight reaches the surface of the earth, and the other 70% is absorbed by the atmosphere. So in space, using this is actually a bonus because we get about 100% of the light, which in practical terms is 100%, but we actually don't get 100%. But let's just say we get 100% in mathematical terms. So we get a lot of more light to use. And there's another method which is currently being developed, which I went through when I was visiting the Kennedy Space Center in NASA. So basically what they do is any object that has mass, like a human or a car, steps over that or walks over that, moves over that, and creates some kind of pushing force. That force captured by the machine is then converted into any usable form of energy, guys. So by this, we could keep renewing our own energy. Suppose I use 1 liter of fuel from a car, and then it travels over that, and then we could convert that energy as well. So by means, we're not wasting the complete energy, we're still trying to reuse that. So by this method and the other solar panel method used, and then that the energy that is produced is captured by the machine, and after this, we can have a well-developed system on which we can activate our heaters, generate other forms of energy, and a lot more. So if we can calculate everything properly, guys, we could possibly create some kind of source of energy from which our space station can run effectively, guys. So that is really key to the success of the space station, is our own source of energy, guys. Okay, I kind of said we had 3 points, but there is another point here, which is point number 4. And let's get into this, okay? Point number 4 says source of light. So as I discussed about the solar panel thing, there is no sundown or night in space. So let me read this point for you guys. I'm going to be reading right now, not explaining. Source of light. We know that in space there is no night, as the sun is always out. This means that we could save a lot more of our limited energy if we put street lights and unnecessary sources of light. We do not put street lights or any unnecessary sources of light. We can use mirrors to direct the sunlight into whatever direction we want, By this, places can be lit for literally forever. This can be darkened by putting opaque mirrors with cloth. Remember, these are going to be huge mirrors. So now coming to the explanation part of it, as you guys can figure out that as the sun never goes down, we could actually use mirrors to bounce the light in whatever direction we want and to keep this place lit. By this, we can save a lot on street lights and other stuff like that, guys, and kind of use a little bit more of our energy on other necessary stuff. As you know, light is a priority. And then there is a sub point to this. A sub point is basically a bonus point that comes in with the mirrors. It's a greenhouse effect, guys. So suppose our heaters fail, we could create a greenhouse, as we know that glass is a very bad conductor of heat, and once the heat is inside, it is insulated and cannot escape, creating a greenhouse, which means that heat cannot escape and heats up the temperature inside the cylinder when the heaters fail. They will be repaired later on. Okay, so now let's look at some stuff a common man needs to survive. Water, air, food, and a fair amount of living space, and so on. So the real problem we face is with air and oxygen, because these are the water and oxygen, these are the key elements to live. So, well, not really. If you carry enough water, we could solve the problem. So what is water? If you guys learned the chemistry properly, you guys will know water is H2O, which is 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen. Combine water with electricity and you separate the hydrogen and the oxygen, which means we have oxygen and hydrogen separate, and we could use that oxygen to breathe, etc., etc. By planting many trees, we could convert the carbon dioxide exhaled by human beings back to oxygen and slowly try to create a small ecosystem by which we do not always have to rely on electricity to separate oxygen and carbon. Excuse me, I am not deleting that. Okay, next point is we are successfully able to convert oxygen and water. We could do cloud seeding, guys. So if you guys live in the Middle East or any deserted place, the government does try to cloud seed, which is basically adding materials or chemicals that, if you guys learn sedimentation and decantation, like alum, that sticks around stuff. So they add chemicals like that in the atmosphere, and they basically grab all the moisture around and make it rain. So cloud seeding is kind of an effective way over here to gather all the water we need. So if we are successful in doing sedimentation and decantation, or cloud seeding for short, we could possibly have a well-developed ecosystem by which water is directed, water evaporates, water comes down as a form of rain. There is photosynthesis, and we are having a reliable source of oxygen, guys. Okay, so now we have our food and water and oxygen, the basics done. Now let's come to the more comfy and other priorities, guys. So now we have the survival priorities done. Come to the other priorities. Okay, let's talk about food. We haven't talked about food the whole time. So scientists have proved that food is not meat is not suitable to eat in space. However, we could eat meat flavored food. Growing crops is going to be key for us, and we need to water crops in the limited amount of water we have. So by this, we have to give the crop the limited amount of water while still making sure the crop remains healthy and does not die due to lack of water. So water scarce countries like Israel have started this new type of irrigation called the drip system, where the plant is watered drop by drop, and this saves a lot more water than the sprinkler system, where a lot of water is just poured out. Moving on to water consuming plants such as rice, they could be grown in small paddy fields or ponds where water is constant and is always there, which saves a lot of water, because you could then keep on using that as a form. Like if I use like 100 liters of water and put rice plants in them and keep doing that for like ever, then rather putting like 20 liters of water every year, that kind of saves up a lot of water. Okay, and then This combined with humans here not smoking, because that would obviously affect the atmosphere. Humans trying to save water, industries not creating too much pollution, banning of plastic and other stuff where humans try to save, fixing leaks, closing taps, and do whatever they can to save and not burning anything. This will help. I swear, if you guys are not closing your taps or have a leak in your tap, 72 liters of water is wasted every day. And that's a fact. Even drop by drop, 72 liters a day. So, if people do this pretty well, we may end up having a fair amount of food and water and air, breathable air. So now let's come back to the situation of living. So we will bring a lot of material from which we could build roads, we could build buildings, and we will build parks, public parks, and everything which you guys see around you guys, shops, parks, etc., etc. And basically there could be private companies coming to these cylinders or space stations and setting up businesses where people can work. Obviously this depends upon the class of the space station, which I mentioned in the beginning of the article. So if you live in a rich or poor or middle class, that kind of job you will be able to get. And there will be parks, beaches, and everything, etc., etc., made, and this all in the efforts to make it feel like home back on Earth, trying to give you that comfy feeling that you are on Earth and not on some deserted, confined space station millions and millions of kilometers away from Earth. Okay? So now, at the end of the day, we have a space station with about 10,000 people living on it, having a house, a car, jobs, etc., dogs, cats, animals, and etc., and everything. You guys could actually have it like home. We can bring a lot of soil to grow plants, and we have to do that. So at the end of the day, the space station is carrying about 10,000 people and is equipped with all the necessities, orbiting away from Earth, but it's not the only one, and there are thousands and thousands of them. This is a result of hard work, science, engineering, and planning. Humans have achieved space settlement. Ayan Sunidhi. Okay guys, thank you so much for making this to the end of the video. I actually enjoyed this. Writing the article, saying it, I'm going to be honest, it's not a lot of fun. It's 22 minutes and 37 seconds since I've been saying this, and it's like really hard to coordinate all of that. So now let me summarize why I was not uploading for a month. So basically the last video I made was on the moons, and after that I pretty much was enjoying the rest of my vacation because I was in India, and after that we started studying for exams, and I never got the time to address the fact that I was not going to make the videos until now when I'm actually making the videos. So fact is, if I'm not going to be uploading, I have to tell you guys a video before, but I never got the chance because I didn't know. I thought of making a separate video just to tell you guys I'm not going to be uploading, but it's whatever guys. We have done it, space settlement. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Make sure to slam the like button, and if you guys appreciate all this time and effort I have been putting into my space progress, I really do enjoy making space stuff. Just to think about the fact about space, oh my god, it just breaks my mind that how we are, who we are, where we are, everything's just amazing guys, and learning about this is honestly really good, and sharing it with you guys is like the best thing ever. There is a saying, like, if you guys enjoy what you do and others enjoy from what you do and they benefit from it, that's the best thing ever. There's nothing better than that, and that's what honestly I think as well. If you guys enjoy something and others are enjoying it and others are benefiting from it, or even just having a good time, that is actually the best thing ever, and I actually enjoy that. And I would keep working on these space videos regardless ups and downs, regardless of anything. Nothing's going to be stopping me from making space videos or any kind of YouTube content, because I enjoy making videos, I enjoy learning about space, and I enjoy sharing it with you guys. So I appreciate you guys slamming the like button and subbing up if you guys haven't subbed up already. Thank you so much guys for stopping by on this video. I honestly am something from YouTube. That's what I feel. I have a voice. Right now my voice is broken down because I have cough and I cannot pronounce words properly, but I will be back, And through YouTube, thank you so much for 25 subscribers. I made a 20 subscriber special video a few months ago, and now wow, we have made 5 subscriber progresses. Like, it is not a whole lot, but it is a lot. I mean, every subscriber counts. Every person participating on these videos, it does. And yeah, I would like to thank you all for that. Now I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much, and bye.